pandemic and being safe at the polls. What kind of precautions are you all taking?
Well, we're going to take the exact same precautions that we took back in the August election. We're going to make sure that we're social distancing, we're using PPE, all of our workers are wearing masks or shields. We're going to have hand sanitizer, we have sneeze guards, and ultimately we want to get the voter in and out, and so there's going to be longer lines because we're trying to space it out a little bit more, but longer lines is not necessarily a bad thing. We're going to be able to move those voters through pretty quickly, but just be prepared to stand in line. Thankfully, it looks like we've got beautiful weather for a few days, so it should be a good experience.
For sure. And why is it so important that people make a plan now and cast their ballot early rather than waiting till November 3rd, till that last minute?
Well, a couple reasons. Number one, 4 out of the last 6 election days in Knox County, we've had anything from strong storms to even tornadic activity over in counties next to us and close to us, and we don't know what November 3rd is going to hold with regard to COVID-19 or the weather. And so it's good just to get that out of the way earlier. And as I was telling someone this week, if you vote on October 14th or 15th and then you pass away, your vote counts. The other thing I would encourage voters to do is have a plan and specifically look at that sample ballot before you go to vote, because I think everybody knows President and U.S. House and U.S. Senate, but there's a couple of charter amendment questions on there, and I think that's going to slow some voters down. So we encourage them to go online, research those charter questions so they can have a little bit better idea of what they're voting on so they can get in and out quickly.
For sure. And just to recap real quick, know your dates, make a plan is the thing we keep hearing. What are the dates people need to know from now until Election Day?
We start tomorrow, October 14th. It goes all the way through October 29th. My recommendation to voters, if you don't want to stand in line 2 hours, is maybe think about your weekends, your Saturdays, think about the midday, and maybe sometime mid next week when it could be a little less crowded at the polls, because I know that first couple days, probably those last couple of days are going to be really, really packed. So just make a plan and go when you can. And remember, you can go to any one of our 10 spots.
For sure. Thank you so much. And we're going to continue answering your questions on our Facebook page, WBIR Channel 10, to answer all your questions. So stay with us online. Thank you.
We are still live on Facebook.
Okay.
As much as we want, I'm guessing about 15.
Yeah.
Grace, if you want to go ahead and cross the folks that are watching now,
Okay.
then I'll get a mic.
Okay.
I will get a mic as soon as Brian gets one.
She was talking to me the whole time. There's like a spider web, like right here, that's like floating.
Oh.
And I was just like, I was trying not to not look at it, but it's like, I can't tell how far away it is. I was like, get away from me, But I didn't want to do this here because it looks foolish, so it's.
All right, so it looks like we are live on Facebook. We'll wait for a couple more people to join in, but for those of you who weren't on TV with us, this is Chris Davis. He is the Administrator of Elections in Knox County, here to answer any questions. So I know we just talked about some of that, but for our viewers on Facebook, where can we vote beginning tomorrow?
Well, there are 10 locations throughout Knox County. Certainly the Carnes Senior Center will open up at 8 o'clock. All of our other locations will open up at 10 o'clock with the exception of the Baker Center, which will be open that last week. And my recommendation to folks is if you don't want to stand in line for a couple of hours at maybe some of our bigger spots like downtown West or Farragut, we have a new spot at the Carter Senior Center out in East Knox County. The Carnes Senior Center is a great location. The Expo Center on Clinton Highway, those are all great, relatively spacious locations where if a voter doesn't mind getting in the car and spending a 10, 15, 20-minute drive, depending on where they live, those are places where they can go and the line might be a little bit shorter.
For sure. And we have a lot of our viewers who plan on casting absentee ballots this year. How many absentee ballots have you guys gotten here?
We have received requests, a little over 18,000 requests. We've approved over 17,000 requests. We've sent out well over 10,000 ballots so far and sending out hundreds and hundreds more every day. And we've probably received back somewhere in the neighborhood of 7,000 to 8,000 already. And of course, those are coming back every day and we're putting voter histories on. And so it's been a big process. And for us, it's historic. We've never had anything anywhere near this big.
And of course, there's still time to request an absentee ballot, but when should people be, trying to get those back to you guys?
They really should try and do it in the next day or two, maybe 3 or 4. They technically can do it until October 27th, but that only leaves you a week for us to receive your request, process your request, mail your ballot to you, you get it, fill it out, and mail it back. That's a lot of steps to do inside of 7 days, and it has to be mailed back. So my recommendation is if you're going to vote, go ahead and please request that today, request it tomorrow. Do not wait much longer because we just want to make sure that you have time to get the ballot, fill out the ballot, and get it back to us in the mail.
For sure. And will you guys be having something like the Wise Garber post office like you did in August?
That's certainly the plan right now. If you can get your ballot 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever it ends up being, that we would do one last mail run on election day because it has to be mailed or UPS or FedEx. It can't be hand delivered, obviously. But I know back in August we did one last mail run. We got about 120 extra ballots that we normally would not have received. So it was a good thing for us, and I anticipate if we do that again, and I anticipate doing that we'll receive many more.
For sure. And talk to me a little bit about how many staffers you guys have and how you're kind of preparing for a busy election cycle.
Oh, it's unprecedented for us. We have, in our front office here, we probably have 20 plus people answering phones and doing some work there. And then at our absentee ballot center, we probably have another 25, give or take, that are working 2 shifts, ultimately to make sure that we're getting ballots out, that we're processing requests, that we're putting voter histories on, and then just answering all the myriad of questions that come in from voters about specific situations or maybe problem situations or unique situations.
For sure. I'm just going to go look and see if we have any questions here yet. We have some viewers asking where you can early vote.
Okay, you can, I'll go through those locations real quick for you. Downtown West is one of our most popular locations. We also have one at the Farragut Town Hall. If you live out in the Karnes or Hardin Valley area, we have one at the Karnes Senior Center. We have one on the Expo Center on Clinton Highway. If you live up in Halls, at the Halls Recreation Center. New Harvest Park over near Easttown Mall is one. As I mentioned earlier, the Carter Senior Center, which is a really nice location. I hope more voters take advantage of that out in East Knox County. The Love Kitchen, if you live over here in the East Knoxville area. City County building right behind me here will be one. Meridian Baptist Church down on Chapman Highway is one for your South Knoxville citizens. And then, of course, those last 4 days we'll be at the Baker Center on the UT campus.
Awesome. And you kind of mentioned the hours already. Where, when people go to early vote, they have from now until, or from tomorrow until October 29th,
Yes.
And then on election day.
That's correct.
Are there any what's the difference between voting early and voting on election day?
Well, the biggest difference, there's really a number of differences, but number one, with early voting, you can vote anywhere. You can vote at any one of the 10 locations. Election day, you have to vote in your precinct, and that throws a lot of people who maybe only vote once every 4 or 8 years because they forget, well, where do I go to vote? And then they call on election day, and it makes it a very confusing day for everybody. The other thing is if someone's had an address change or a name change, it's much easier to handle that and take care of that during early voting than it is on election day. And frankly, I think the lines, even though we may encounter lines that are a couple hours long tomorrow and during days of early voting, I still think they will be shorter than you will see on election day. And frankly, the next 7 days at least, it's beautiful weather. We're standing out here right now. This is perfect. I hope people will get out and take advantage of the weather because whether it's COVID-19 or whether it's something weather related, we don't know what's going to be going on November 3rd. I encourage people to get this out of the way.
For sure. And if I have to wait until November 3rd, how can I find my precinct location or where to vote?
Well, there's a couple of ways. After early voting's over, you can just check out our website. It'll have a Where Do I Vote button. You can also go on to kgis.org. It's Knoxville's Geographic Information System. And you just type in your address and it'll tell you where to vote.
Grace and Chris, our viewers are also asking, this is a good question for you, Chris. How do we ensure that the mail-in ballots that have been sent into you are safe, that they are okay, that nobody's going to mess with them?
Well, they're handled by a Democrat and a Republican and a team right now of about 20 to 22 people. And then they are locked up securely in locked ballot boxes with literally with a red lock and a blue lock on them. And they sit in a locked closet in a locked building until election day, when by law we can then open them up.
And for sure. And you said that's a similar process for early voting. Once your ballot is processed and scanned, it drops into a box sealed with the red and blue lock.
That's
making
correct.
sure that everything is safe.
That's correct, and they're actually locked here in the courthouse at the end of every day through all 14 days of early voting. Yes, ma'am.
And can you talk, what are some of the most common mistakes you see when people are filling out their ballots?
Well, I think probably the biggest one is just not filling in the square completely, and this is a new thing for Knox County because we've not used paper ballots previously. But we just it's literally if you remember back to the 5th and 6th grade when we filled out the standardized tests and we fill in the bubble, that's essentially what this is. I will tell you that about 63,000 people voted in person back in August, and we had very few problems with that. And it's just a matter of just coloring inside the lines, taking your time, and having a plan when you go vote. I mean, really, we've solved very few problems, frankly, and knock on wood, I don't think we'll see many this time.
For sure. And if there is a problem, in person, you have a chance to fix it right there.
Absolutely. If you feed it through the scanner and it kicks it back out and it says, you voted for too many people, or we can't detect your mark, it'll be able to help. It'll identify what the problem is for you, and you can go back and fix that yourself.
For sure. And how does that change if you cast absentee ballot and there's also a mistake?
Well, if there's something in the absentee process, what we do is we have a team of Democrats and Republicans that sit together at a computer monitor, and literally they go through and adjudicate every one. So the monitor will say, perhaps someone may be marked in both the Biden box and the Trump box. I'm not editorializing here. I'm just stating a possibility. The workers would then have to go through and jointly decide, and even get a third party involved if necessary, to say this is what the voter meant. This is the intent of the voter. Thankfully, we don't see that very often. Most of the time, it's maybe somebody just makes a pin mark in one of the boxes and then goes ahead and marks the entire box, and maybe the scanner picks up both of them. But the workers can usually quickly adjudicate that and say, oh, this is what they meant.
Chris, we know obviously across the country voters are concerned about, they want to cast their ballot, obviously. There's intense interest, but they also are taking steps like voting early or casting the mail-in ballot. To help us understand sort of how much interest there is in that, give us an idea for the August 6th primary that we had. What was the split? I know you said it was more than 11,000 people mailed in a ballot, and then we had, what, 35 or 40,000 early votes?
I think it was 37 or 38,000 people voted early. About 11,500, give or take, voted absentee, and then you can do the math, whatever that, minus 75,000 was the total, whatever, that would be the election day total.
Those are the folks that actually showed up on that August 6th.
That's correct,
the balance.
And we just never, if you can early vote or absentee vote, we highly encourage it, just because you don't know what November 3rd holds, weather, COVID-19, what's going to be going on in your personal life. Do you have a health emergency? Does your car break down?
Yep.
I mean, I hear every single reason in the book, and I'll tell you one more we hear. I had 3 calls on election day, August 6th, from 2 people had COVID-19, and the third, a family member that they live with, had COVID-19, and it's like they couldn't go to the polls. Could we get them an absentee ballot? At that point, it was too late. So we don't know what our own health is going to be on November 3rd. So I encourage you, if you can get out one of these first couple of weeks and get this done, it lets it put it to bed.
Well, I think when the president suddenly fell ill with COVID, that was a reminder that even though we've all been living with this for months, it can happen. It can even happen to the President of the United States. So again, underscoring the fact that, you might want to take care of some business because you don't know when life's going to kind of step in the way and mess things up.
That's exactly right. We don't know what tomorrow holds. We're literally preached to our workers today. We saw that arguably the most secure person on the entire planet caught COVID with all the precautions that he takes and has around him. That any one of them could get sick. Obviously, I'm also concerned about the health of my workers, in addition, obviously, to the health of the voters. And so, we're encouraging them, keep your distance, keep your mask on, wash your hands, practice social distancing, stay behind those sneeze guards, so that ultimately we can keep people healthy and allow everybody to exercise their right to vote.
We've got a question on our Facebook page from Phyllis. She says, is there a way for someone to check if they're absentee or is there a way, if you cast the mail-in or absentee ballot, is there a way for someone to check to see where it is if it gets counted?
Yes, though. We actually, in every absentee ballot that we mail out, we put some materials in there, and one of them is a little URL. It's an internet code, essentially just to go to the Secretary of State's website. It's the same page you'll find on there, and you can just look up your voter information. It will actually look up, if you're an absentee voter, it'll tell you so. It'll tell you when your ballot was mailed. It'll tell you when your ballot was returned. I will tell you generally it's a few days off because we have to upload our information to the state database, and quite often somebody will email us and say, well, it hasn't shown up yet in the system. It shows up in our system because it just hasn't uploaded to the state yet, but that's generally what it does.
Do you have an opinion or do you have experience as to generally how quickly the ballot gets mailed in? And I'm going to say to you that honestly, I'm actually pretty impressed at how quickly things tend to get mailed around this town. If I mail my KUB bill on a Tuesday, it's usually there by a Thursday. I don't know if you have a sense that you could gauge with people who are watching us in terms of how quickly usually that comes into the office after it's mailed.
No, I can't say that. What I can tell you is, in looking at voter histories when we're putting ballots on, I'm generally seeing an 8 to 10 day window between the date we mail it out. I'm assuming most voters are getting it, they're filling out, and they're getting it back in the mail, because generally 8 to 10 days later, we're recording voter history. And so that's what, that's a good thing from my perspective. But on the flip side, it also tells me, you wait to October 27th to November 3rd, that's 7 days. You can see the problem there with an 8 to 10 day turnaround, and that doesn't even count the processing time.
Yep.
So we're encouraging people, if you want to vote absentee, please go ahead and request it now.
We've got a question from another viewer named Joyce. She wants to know, when do mail-in ballots arrive? When you request it, how soon should you expect to?
Well, when we first started, it was probably 2.5, 3 weeks. Now we're getting down to about a week, give or take, something like that. Sometimes it may be 10 days. But they're going a little bit faster. We've just gotten used to what we're doing. You know, obviously, a typical November election, we'll do 5,000 to 6,000. We're doing somewhere in the neighborhood of 17,000 right now. So it's we've had to ramp up and change a lot of processes, but it's going well. And you know, I don't expect demand to slow down. In fact, I would bet with the first day of early voting being tomorrow, we'll probably see a little spike, like we usually do in every election. The first day of early voting, we'll see a spike in absentees.
For sure. Do you know how many absentee ballot requests have you guys gotten so far again?
About 18,000, right over 18,000.
And then in August, you had about 11,000?
We actually had about 13.5, I think, that we actually approved, and then we ended up getting about 11,500 of them back, yeah.
Will you be able to count all those ballots on election day, election night, based on, you know, how you saw things go in August?
I hope so. I do hope so, but you know, this is unprecedented for us. So the plan will be, we've ramped up in terms of space, we've ramped up in terms of people that are going to work for us, but ultimately that, you know, that makes sure the lights stay on for 12 hours and there's no power outage. That makes sure that we don't have a knock on wood, an outbreak of, you know, where we've got to send 10 workers home. There's obviously a lot of variables there, but you know, we did it and did it pretty well in August. But once again, we're probably looking, I'm going to say double right now what we did in August. So does that take us till 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, midnight? I don't know right now. I'd like to say yes, but if it ends up going into a second day, then you know, we'll do whatever we have to do, because ultimately my first goal is to be accurate. And I want to, you know, if it takes us another 6 hours, 12 hours to make sure that everything is accurate, then that's fine with me.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but some folks might be wondering, have within your office, because you've been functioning, you've been operating ever since the spring, have you had any problems with the virus?
No. I'm very scared to say that. I don't believe in jinxes. I'm very scared.
Hopefully I haven't done it.
Every single day we preach to them, please wear your mask,
right.
Please wash your hands, please
right.
social distance. I will say, I think generally speaking, the demographic that's working in my office, by and large, are not the ones to go out partying or clubbing,
right.
so to speak.
They don't go down to the strip.
Not for most of them, don't. You know, maybe some of them do, and that's okay. Certainly not editorializing there, but we remained healthy so far. We've had a couple of scares. You know, maybe a family member's been sick, or a couple staff members have been sick, but it's not been COVID. And you know, we just cross our fingers so we can get through the next 21 days.
And I think when folks come to your office, I've noticed this. They can't go in as far as they used to, right? Aren't they like met at the door now? If
that's
you've got
correct.
to come into this building,
yeah, we have a sneeze guard there.
There's only so far you're going to go.
Yeah, that's right, and we just limit it just because we want to keep people safe.
And I think this bears reminding, when people go to vote early, starting tomorrow,
okay.
And I know I'm planning on voting early, masks are not mandatory, but they are strongly encouraged. Is that not correct?
They are strongly encouraged, and I think, frankly, we've seen an uptick in cases just very recently.
Right.
Once again, I'm not editorializing pro-mask, anti-mask,
right.
but I will tell you 99% plus of our voters who voted in person in July and August wore masks. They did so willingly. We have masks at the polling place because 9 times out of 10, what we found is if somebody comes into the polling place and they don't have it on, it's like, oh, I left it in my car. We'll give them one instead of having to go back to their car, for instance. If someone chooses not to, that is their right. We cannot deny them the right to vote. But you know, you're going to be in there for a short amount of time, so we certainly, just as election workers and keeping everybody healthy, hope that people wear masks, but they don't have to.
It would certainly show respect on the public's part to the people who are working at the polls if they would wear a mask, just to help ensure that the spread does not occur when the person is casting their ballot.
Yeah, and certainly, you know, the one heartening thing to me is, you know, 99% of people that came in plus had those masks on, and that's a good thing to see.
For sure. Anything else you can think of, John?
I think that about does it, Grace. I think we've grilled him pretty hard. I think we're about done on questions. We will continue, obviously. We've been covering this pretty fervently, and we'll be doing it for the next 21 days?
21 days, that's right.
I bet you're counting down.
No, why would you think that?
We appreciate your time.
I appreciate WR helping to get the word out. I just encourage everybody, early vote, take advantage of it. If you go tomorrow and line's 2 hours long, I get it. Maybe try another location, or maybe try the weekend, or maybe a midday, something like that. There are going to be lines, and I don't want to, you know, give false hope to anybody out there. There are going to be lines. I anticipate those, but I would rather see a 1.5, 2 hour line during early voting than a 4-hour line on election day, because we don't know what's going to happen. So I just encourage everybody to have a little bit of grace. Make sure you've got your photo ID. If you want to bring a blue or black ink pen, we'll provide them. But if you don't have them, bring one, and just get ready to have a little knowledge of what you're going to look at, because those questions are going to throw people.
Grace, you want to wrap us up?
For sure. Thank you so much, Chris. We really appreciate it. And for those of you watching, we have a ton of voting resources on our website right now, wbir.com, how to check if you're registered to vote, where to go to vote, how ballots are counted, how you know your vote is counted, all of that online. Thank you so much for watching.